Hey guys, welcome to 7 Spice Life. I'm your host Lisa, and today I have a very special treat for you. We are making the Assyrian classic, everybody loves it, dolma. So many different regions and countries and cultures have their own version of dolma, but we are making a classic style dolma that Esther has created for us today. Now, I could come up with my own version, but why mess with a perfect recipe? Esther, why don't you tell us how you came to this recipe?
This recipe goes back to my childhood and how my mom used to make her dolma. I would sit with her and roll it up. I went off of what I remembered, her making from my childhood, watching her make it, and I tweaked it to come up as close to it as possible. So this is very much based in her classic recipe with a little twist of my own.
Cooking and tasting food brings back all these senses and memories. So for me, this is like the down-home, truest Assyrian classic that it's my comfort food.
Absolutely.
It's your comfort food. For Assyrians, the majority of Assyrians at least, dolma is it. What do we need for a successful dolma? Well, we're gonna break it down into steps for you so you can digest this process very easily and you can be successful trying to make this on your own. There are three main components. That is the filling, which is absolutely so important. Some people make it with meat, some people make it vegetarian. The vehicle that stores the filling, whether that be grape leaves rolled up, cabbage, little baby root vegetables, onions, tomatoes, that can hold the filling. That's your second main component. And the third main component is the braising liquid that you pour on top of it to cook everything up into this beautiful tower of dolma.
For the filling, we'll go over that first. You're gonna need your actual veggie ingredients, and then you're gonna need seasonings. So for your seasoning, you're gonna need your salt and pepper, classic seasoning, and then you're gonna use seasoning salt, coriander, citric acid, that's right here, and then a cayenne pepper, and then your oil, a neutral oil. We're gonna use avocado oil.
Let's talk about all the ingredients you're going to need so that you have everything in place. When you start this process, you wanna have your ingredients prepped and ready to go. A classic mise en place dish or recipe, if you call it.
Now that you know which seasonings you're gonna put in, we'll go over the ingredients of the actual filling. So you're gonna have parsley, dill, jalapeno pepper, garlic, tomatoes, onion. We're gonna use a tomato paste in it. We're gonna do a long white grain basmati rice. That's the classic for the filling. And then a lean cut of meat like a sirloin or a New York strip.
So we're going grass-fed here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tends to be more lean anyway on its own. And some people like to cook the bones or the actual meat underneath. If you want tons of flavor, go ahead and use the bones. We're in a pandemic, so what we have is boneless cuts of meat, which will work just fine.
It'll be fine. I've made it both ways. And even still, like if I use the bone, I'll cut off the meat and put it in my filling and just like cook up the bone a little bit and then line it on the bottom, whatever you want to do.
There's so many different variations. Are you guys ready to wrap, roll, and rock the dolma? Let's do it. Okay, we're back and ready to prep our meat. So that's the first thing you want to do, isn't it?
Yes.
We are cooking dolma in this pot today. It's a fairly small amount. Usually people make a ton. And that's great, but we want you to be able to make this for your family. And right now you may not be with your extended aunts and uncles and cousins and things like that, which is usually how much dolma we make, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Quadruple.
So we're doing an 8-inch pot. It's fairly small, and this is enough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But we're still going on the smaller end of making this dolma. So we've got 2 cuts of sirloin and a New York strip. Esther, walk us through how you would cut this meat for our dolma, and I'm gonna put this on the stove where it's going to be waiting for us.
So I always try to trim off as much fat off the meat as I can. So like this area surrounding it all can go. If it has a decent amount of marbling, you don't have to worry about that too much because there's only so much from the inside you can take off.
Well, we're going to cook it first as well, right? So all that fat will render off and you'll be left with that really lean meat when we're done.
Exactly.
Just make sure you're cutting against the grain so you don't get tough, chewy pieces. If the grain goes this way, you're gonna cut on a diagonal this way, okay?
So this is a perfect example. You have this like little strip. We're gonna cut in half.
Vertically.
Vertically.
Into strips.
And then we're gonna cut that in cubes.
So we have these tiny little cubes. So it's a pretty fine dice for a cut of meat. Side note here, I want you to know that when we started quarantining, Esther also works with me in my salon, and we were quarantined together right from the get-go, and we currently run the closed shop together. So us being in this closed setting, we're not breaking any laws. I just want to preface that. Stay safe, stay healthy. Okay, we're coming down to the last piece of dicing of our steak. And that's it.
Okay, so we are gonna render this down. You don't season this. You just want to get all of that extra fatty liquid out of the meat to clean it up and cook it nicely. You don't want to cook it all the way through. It'll cook during the pot, but you just kind of want to cook that down a little bit.
Okay guys, we've got our meat here and we've got the pan on medium. You don't want it too high. We're just gonna cook off all the gross stuff that comes up when you stew meat. Since this is a really good cut of meat, you're not gonna have that much of that film that collects, but we do want to kind of render off any of that weird collection that happens so that you just get only meat flavor shining through and you don't get that gaminess that we always talk about. Yeah.
The shoka. That's what we call it. Just get it all in there.
It's just a low sizzle, that's all you want, right?
Yeah,
okay.
You can even turn it down a little bit if you want. You don't want it on high heat because you don't want your meat to get tough at all. You'll see that it'll start to cook a little bit, and as it cooks, you'll see all of that extra fat rendering off.
This is what you're looking for?
Yeah.
You want to have all that liquid that's collected. We're going to strain that with the sieve right here.
This is a really nice clean cut of meat, so that first strain we did is perfect. This is just gonna brown up a little bit and then it'll be good to go.
And the good thing about the filling is we can use every part of the vegetable that we are going to use and pretty much work really efficiently. It's such an herbaceous, beautiful smell. I mean, look at these gorgeous colors here.
The second you start smelling it, you know like a dolma is being made somewhere.
Totally, totally. Okay. We've got our bowl here with our washed and drained rice. We've got our cooled off meat mixture, and we've chopped up our parsley and dill, which amount to about a ½ cup each. We've got a cup of onion, a ¼ cup of finely diced jalapeno, seeds removed, a heaping tablespoon of grated garlic, and our ⅓ cup of lemon juice, 7 ounces of tomato paste. These are all gonna go in the filling along with 4 hollowed out tomato meat, okay? So Esther has all the tomato meat here. You can see she's hollowed it out with a spoon and she's going to chop it up. All the juices, seeds, and pulp go right in the bowl. I'm going to start adding all of this in here while she's doing that. And you can see that we've really finely diced the dill.
Yeah.
Let's do a close-up on that. And the parsley. So get it as fine as possible. So there's my grated garlic, so that goes in as well. ¼ cup of the jalapeno, seeds removed.
I like to take the seeds out. I don't want my mouth to feel like it's on fire, but I want that nice spice to come through still.
Save your jar if you're Middle Eastern like us. No jar goes in the recycle bin. They all get reused.
I love it. I use it for like dressings, grain.
Lemon juice in there. Let's try and do this without ruining it, huh?
I'll let you do that because I will ruin it.
Oh! And now you could get nitty gritty and mix this with your hands or a spoon. It smells incredible, doesn't it?
Oh, it smells like dolma.
It does. You know the dolma smell when you smell it. So now it's time to add our seasoning. We've got a teaspoon of salt, ½ teaspoon of fresh cracked pepper. You can say when.
That's good.
Great. And then your seasoning salt. And a ¼ teaspoon of cayenne, ¼ teaspoon of coriander, and a ¼ teaspoon of citric acid. This brings out that sour tang to the dolma. If you're not a Syrian and you don't know why we would add citric acid, you've got the salty, the sweet, the tangy sourness. So all those flavors are playing together in this beautiful melange of umami.
So let's mix. And I like to kind of go from the sides of the bowl and just like fold it in.
Okay, the last step in this filling is going to be the neutral oil we talked about.
About 2 tablespoons of avocado oil.
Perfect. So that goes in and thoroughly mix that one last time. Do we give it a tiny taste?
Yeah.
I love it.
It's perfect.
It tastes amazing. I'm even crunching on the rice. I don't care.
And you can eat it.
Yes! We've done our filling. The next step is the vehicle that will carry our filling. We don't really have the opportunity to pillage for grape leaves.
Especially right now.
So luckily, your favorite Middle Eastern grocery store carries packaged grape leaves. And they come like this, bundled up.
You want your leaves to be as soft as possible.
To get them even more tender and soft, we're going to parboil them to loosen up the tough skin.
Some leaves compared to others can be a little bit more rough or more tender. You don't know until you get the leaf, but boiling them like that will just kind of take care of that on its own.
Plus it takes off that brine, and then you don't have like a pickled dolma leaf. This does not have a stem. If yours comes with a stem, you're gonna need to trim that off. We purposely looked for ones without the stem because we would rather make things easier on us.
Yeah, and not harder.
The other vehicle we're choosing
is our onion here. So you're gonna cut off the top and bottom of the onion, and then you're gonna cut in this like half cut right there, you can see. We're gonna take the peel off, you just boil it whole, and then once it starts to soften and get nice and translucent, you can start taking the layers off, and you'll see they just come right off and separate.
Don't forget to save the dolma jar too. What will we put in this, Esther?
This, you can put like any grain, lentils, rice. Use it for storage. You're gonna use it for something.
Our water is ready, it's boiling, and the onion was wedged out, but it's remaining whole. We've gone ahead and flattened out the leaves, and we're gonna plop them in the water just like that. Last step we have to do, which is the third part of our dolma making, is our braising liquid. This is going to be the last step. Once you fill your pot,
you have everything wrapped?
Yeah.
Pour it over.
I'm adding 1/3 cup of hot water. And you want hot water, why?
Because your paste, your syrups, they're very concentrated. You want something to like melt everything down and mix it all together. 1/4 cup of tomato paste. And we're gonna put that all in there. 2 tablespoons of that neutral oil. And then you're gonna mix your syrup. So now we're gonna start with the tamarind syrup, and this adds a beautiful tanginess.
Some people add tamarind paste to their dolma. In this case, we are using a syrup, guys. Do not confuse the two. 2 tablespoons of the tamarind syrup and 1 tablespoon of date.
That's perfect. And then our last one is gonna be the pomegranate syrup, and that's also gonna be a tablespoon.
Okay, we're gonna whisk it all up, make sure everything's nicely incorporated.
It's not gonna look like a lot or enough, but you wanna keep in mind that the natural liquids are gonna start coming out, so you don't want your pot of dolma to overflow with liquid.
This looks beautiful. I just gave it a tiny taste. It's perfect. And all we have to do is strain the boiling pot of water and start wrapping. Let's go.
The best part.
We've got our filling right here. We've got the steamed onion, tomato shells. Here are our grape leaf shells.
You're just gonna take them out and put them in a handy bowl.
Line the bottom of this pot with the leaves, right? To create kind of like a barrier between the heavy flame and our tender leaves and tomatoes, onions, things like that.
Yeah.
But if we were using bones, do we have an order you would put them in?
You basically use your bones and no leaves.
If you can see, this is what we've got going on. We've just lined the bottom of the pan. Set that aside.
So you're gonna need like a small spoon and your hands. And that's basically it. I always line my pot with whatever the biggest vegetable is that you're gonna fill. In this case, it's our tomatoes. So we're just gonna place those, and that way it's almost like a puzzle that you kind of work around.
We've kept the lid on our a hinge on our tomato.
Our little hats.
And how much do we want to stuff this, Esther?
You don't want to overstuff it. You want to keep in mind your filling, your rice is going to cook and expand.
Maybe 1/8 of an inch on the top, and it's not too filled. All right, and I can just close it up and we can put it in the pot, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
I love this part of it.
She's teaching me, guys. Little hats on.
We're gonna start with placing our onion layer vertically, and then you're gonna put your filling in there and literally just roll it up.
So we're doing like a heaping tablespoon for this. You need to eyeball it. Don't overstuff your filling vehicles, but also don't understuff them because you don't want to be biting into only onion.
Exactly. Anytime you roll, you just start placing in your pot. You want to go fairly tight, but you don't want to go too tight because it'll start squeezing out the sides. Just start placing them in. You want a nice tight fit so things aren't like moving around in there.
Okay, Esther, show me how to properly roll a dolma because this is probably the hardest part for a lot of people.
There's a couple things you want to keep in mind. One, if it has a stem at the very tip here, like in the middle, take it off. And the key thing you want to keep in mind, there's like a rough side and a shiny side. You want the shiny side to be facing out. You want your filling to go on the rougher side so that when you roll it all together, it has this beautiful, shiny, smooth sort of finish. So I'm gonna show you on a board, and if you look at a grape leaf, it almost has like 5 points. If it's like the perfect shaped grape leaf.
I can see that.
Yeah, they're not all gonna be perfect, but you kind of wanna keep that in mind. So we're gonna lay it out with this middle point facing away from us, right in front. You wanna put like a heaping tablespoon of your filling mix into the center of the leaf, and you kind of wanna like move it around to line it up in a little line with these like side edges.
The outside sides, okay.
Yeah. And then you're gonna roll those sides in first. So one side in, and then these bottom 2 ones, you're gonna roll into that. And if it's like tearing a little bit here and there, don't worry about it. As long as it's like nice and snug, you're fine. You wanna just make sure the filling doesn't come out from the sides or any little holes. So now we're good. We're gonna roll straight forward up to this point. So we're just gonna kind of tuck and roll. You want it fairly snug. You don't want it to be so tight that it's ripping, but you want it to be snug where it's not like loosey-goosey either. Yeah,
perfect.
So
that looks like a nice little
perfect
cigar.
Yeah. And then you just start brick layering into your pot.
What does brick lay mean? Brick lay means if you're laying one row this way, then the next row, the next brick lays in between where the last 2 bricks met. Right?
Yeah.
And we will show you in the pot.
That's a perfect example of brick
Oh yeah, my subway tile is brick laid.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Awesome. Cool. I'm just kidding. It really wasn't anything to roll up the dolma. It went pretty fast, especially with 2 people. So get your friends or family or little kiddos involved.
I actually grew up rolling dolma with my mom, so it's fun. Yeah. The last step before you get ready to cook your dolma, you are just gonna pour this over. So we're just gonna pour that all over. Last step is gonna be, we're gonna press a plate down on top of this to keep everything nice and snug.
Tucked in, yeah.
And then you're gonna cook. We're gonna use a plate that's just big enough to fit inside the pot. You're gonna flip it upside down and just place it on top of your dolma leaves. And then you're gonna kinda push it down nicely just to get nice and snug on your leaves, and then you're good to go. We're gonna cook on high to get it to boiling. Right when it starts bubbling, you can hear it and you'll see it kind of boiling and bubbling. You'll turn it down on low and let it cook. I always think the best dolma tastes better and better as it sits and cooks. So, you know, 2 hours, 3 hours on like the lowest low setting, it'll just get better and better.
So up to a boil and then low and slow.
All right, you can even...
I'm going! Okay, so the dolma's almost ready. I can't wait, I'm so excited. We've got our tray here for the flip and reveal. A lot of people just eat Assyrian homemade yogurt with the dolma, and we eat it as an entree. This combo is the perfect combo. We're just gonna do this really quickly. It's gonna be 2 parts of yogurt to 1 part of sour cream. That's it.
That's it.
So I just put 2 spoons, I eyeballed it, and now 1 spoon of yogurt. Mix it up, and you've got your dip. That's perfect. Mix it up, mix it up.
Mix it. Mix it!
We're just getting hangry.
Mix it!
If you've made it this far, you know that this has been quite the journey. We're still waiting on the dolma to cook, and we don't want to rush it. And that's the key to having really beautiful tasting dolma.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let it go another 45 minutes to an hour, which would make this total cooking time 2 hours. And we turned it down all the way low, which is why we're gonna need another hour, because we just tasted it and it's so delicious, but it's not quite tender, fluffy, and the leaves aren't super tender yet.
Yeah, it still needs more time. So I'm gonna get going. I gotta get home, but Lisa, thank you for letting me come into your kitchen and cook with you and have fun.
She's gonna take off and I'm gonna carry the torch for her.
Yes, she'll do the flip.
Bye! Push Shanna! Alright guys, stick around because I'm going to show you the grand flip. This is when we pour the dolma onto our platter and it's going to look so beautiful and it'll be ready to serve, okay? The moment of truth is finally here. Our dolma has been cooking for almost 2 hours. You want to make sure to have some kind of tong or something to help you lift the plate off because it's going to be very, very hot. You can see that steam coming up. You can flip the pot onto, I'm using this beautiful copper pan. You want to make sure you've got the handles and everything secure and snug, and you're going to do it in 1 quick motion and away we go. It's going to be kind of heavy. I did it, guys! Yay! When you do this, all the juices that have collected and accumulated go into all the layers of the dolma you just prepared. Let's see what we've got hiding under this pot. There is our dolma. It looks beautiful, and I'm sure it tastes equally beautiful. And I'm gonna take these bottom leaves that were kind of lining the pot and discard them. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I need to taste this right now. It looks so delicious. I can't wait to dive right in. I think I'm gonna go for this baby onion right here. A little bit of yogurt mixture and try it with it. It's absolute heaven. Esther, you're a genius. You guys, this is a brilliant recipe. I love that we got a chance to film this. I hope you try making it because it'll be well worth it. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know how your dolma turns out. Show us your pictures with the hashtag 7SpiceLife. Take care.